Welcome to Adoption and Other Matters of the Heart with Terry Odom and Emily Saska. I'm the producer, Serena Travis. Terry and Emily are adoption attorneys from the fine southern state of Louisiana, where they assist expectant and adoptive families navigate the adoption process. And now, here are your hosts, Terry and Emily.
Hello, hello. Good to be here.
Hey, guys.
Hey, ladies. Any court today?
Not for me. Thank goodness. I needed a day to get some work done. So I've got a big work day.
Not for me either. So I have my blue jeans on today. So
running cash. That's fun. So guys, we have some guests today. Who would love the honors to introduce our guests?
Well, I'll take the liberty to introduce these wonderful people. These are my friends and Emily's friends as well, Kurt and Christina. And we're going to get the opportunity to meet their adorable son, Dawson, who is grown up to be a little man just faster than any of us is ready to. Is that right, y'all?
Right.
Very much.
Well, welcome. We're glad to have you.
Glad to be
Glad
here.
to be here.
We're super excited to celebrate with y'all the gift of adoption. And we just thought y'all had such an interesting story, and everybody has a very amazing story, but we just love to get to know you better and grateful that y'all are interested in sharing your life with Dawson with us.
We're very pleased to.
Yeah.
Well, we'll get started then. I'm first interested to know what prompted you guys to even want to do an adoption.
Well, before when we were dating, talking about getting engaged, all that comes up, and I told him, I was honest with him from the beginning, like, I want adoption to be part of our story. Like, I want to adopt. So of course I want to have a couple biological children first,
Right.
and I want to, adopt. And he was fine with it. He's like, oh yeah, that's awesome. I would love to do that too. Fast forward to about, 3.5 years into our marriage, 4 years into our marriage. We were hit with the infertility bomb. So I was diagnosed with hypothyroidism and polycystic ovarian syndrome. They got everything under control. And then we got his devastating diagnosis, all that what goes with male infertility. But, and even after that, like, we were just kind of shocked and just kind of mad at life, mad at God, mad at whoever. And we didn't even want to think about that, adoption, anything like that. We were just angry. And it took a while for God to kind of soften our hearts back to it.
It took me a lot longer.
It took him a whole lot longer. But one day it was just like, God was like, okay, this is what I have planned for you. Let's get moving. And so when he finally came to that realization, he was like, let's do it. And my aunt lives in Farmerville, and she's got a friend who adopted through Terry. So that's how I learned about Terry and Emily, and just kind of reached out, and the rest is history.
Well, that's an amazing story. And I knew y'all had issues of fertility, but, I think a lot of people don't really appreciate the challenges that go with that. And I know that even now that you've adopted, you're both still real advocates for fertility issues and that kind of thing. Tell us just a little bit about that, the things that you're involved in.
I mean, we're both advocates for it, but me and my friend, I have a friend named Lauren, and they dealt with primary and secondary infertility. And we're going to the same church. And me and her kind of got to talking about it once we got connected and realized we had that in common. She was like, isn't it strange how they have like support groups for divorce, support groups for grief, support groups for addiction, and so there's nothing for infertility. And at the time they didn't have like the Sarah's Laughter groups and all that. So I was like, you know what? And I had been a part of an online support group called Moms in the Making for a while, but I never had connection with anybody. Like, we never weren't meeting in person or anything. So Lauren was like, I think we need to do this. I think we need to start this support group. Churches don't talk about it. It's not, there's so many people struggling who don't feel like they're alone and have nowhere to go. So her and I started a support group called Faith in the Wait, and we meet once a month, and it's been
Yeah, 3 years.
3 years now. We just celebrated I say just in June, it was 3 years. So going on 4 years. And so we've just got a chance to connect with several women around our community that felt like they were completely alone, had no idea that other people were going through it too. And it's been a blessing. We've seen lots of miracle babies come
I
from
think, and I think infertility must be one of those quiet issues that families will just kind of suffer with alone. So I'm really so grateful and honor you for taking that step, because by empowering one another to know you're not alone, that builds that community to know that it's going to be okay no matter what. I had a question though. I wondered, what's the difference, or if you can tell me? You mentioned primary and secondary infertility, and I'm clueless. I don't know the difference.
Well, primary infertility is what we have. You never could conceive for your first child.
Mm-hmm.
Secondary infertility is you may not have had any problems conceiving a first child, but it's taken you years and years and years to conceive a second.
I see.
In
I
my
see.
friend Lauren's case, they tried like for 3 or 4 years, and they were actually about to start fertility treatments. And she took that initial, let's make sure you're not pregnant test. And
Right.
she popped up pregnant. And so then that's actually Dawson's little best friend, Kai. They're the same age. But, and so then after Kai, they're like, you might want to get started right away, trying to have a baby, not say right away, but because since it took you so long the first time, it could take a
Right.
while after, and it took about 4 years. And then they were just at the point where like, you know what, God bless us with Kai as much as we would like. And they were actually started talking to us about adoption. And, then she found out she was pregnant just, miraculously one day. So that's the difference between primary and secondary.
I see. Great story.
Christina, if we have any listeners that are interested in some of these support groups that you're talking about, can you let maybe people know where to go, maybe good online resources, if you have any that you'd like to share with us?
The only ones that I really know about, ours, of course, but there's a group called Sarah's Laughter. You know who Beth Forbes is? She works at the Fertility Institute in Baton Rouge, and she started Sarah's Laughter. She's the founder. And so they started in Baton Rouge, and now they have one in Lafayette. There's one in Morgan City. There's one in, I think, Shreveport. I don't know if there's any closer to where y'all are from, but it's really easy to just get online and Google fertility support groups in my area.
Right.
Something should pop up.
Right. And I know these days, social media, Facebook, Instagram, even just those encouraging memes, you may be swiping and you see a meme of something with just the perfect words that you needed to hear on a bad day, so that's great. They have resources like that with just the internet that kind of helped open that world up to so many people that may be struggling similarly.
In our group, Faith in the Wait, we have a Facebook page.
Mm-hmm.
So you can just type in Faith in the Wait on Facebook, and we're there. I think we have over 100 and something members on Facebook, but they're from all over Louisiana, not just here in Lafayette, but the more local ladies we try to meet in person once a month.
And that's a great name, by the way, too. Faith in the Wait. I love that. That's great.
That could apply to so many things, but
Right.
it's,
Right.
it's a great discipline to employ your faith while you're waiting. And so I love that title. That's great.
And it's not just geared toward women in their infertility journey. It's just the whole umbrella, like infertility, miscarriage, infant loss, adoption loss. It's under that whole umbrella.
I see. It sounds like a wonderful resource. So glad you shared that with us.
You guys, we are going to take a quick break. Before we go, though, if you are an expectant mother, please text us on our Expectant Mother hotline. That number is 318-557-7658 with any questions you have about your options. Again, that number is 318-557-7658. We do get text messages on that number. Please reach out to us.
Music City Studios, Northeast Louisiana's own state-of-the-art professional recording facility. Enjoy a creative and relaxed atmosphere with 2 studios to accommodate all recording needs. From soloists to full multi-track productions, come to a place built by artists for artists. Music City Studios on North 7th Street, across from Rebel Stadium in West Monroe. www.musiccitystudiosla.com.
Welcome back, guys. Let's jump back in. Okay. You ready?
So why don't you tell us a little bit about how Dawson came to be a part of your world?
Okay, you want to start? You want to start off?
Sure.
I've talked a lot already.
Yeah. So, once we made the decision to pursue adoption, she had got there, then I kind of got to the point where I was ready. We had looked at different agencies and stuff and finally landed with Terry. And I remember, we were on vacation in Gulf Shores the week before. And I just remember praying and just kind of giving it to God, trusting in him and thinking, yeah, we're going to meet with this Terry lady next week. And who knows what's going to happen. It'll probably be a year, 2 years, who knows. And then our first initial meeting was in October,
September 21st,
September 21st,
2015. I remember.
September 21st, 2015. And of course, again, I was thinking, yeah, a year, 2 years. And then September.
We had a few situations presented to us that we got passed on, people wanted to have a family more local to them, or I think one was like an African-American birth mother who wanted African-American parents. So it just kind of we had several no's between September and
so, but from September, again, thinking of long term, we got the call December the 29th.
December 30th.
30th, yeah. So he was a day old. He was born on December 29th. And I think it was Emily who called, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, we were living in New Orleans at the time because Kurt was going to school, but we were home for the holidays because school was canceled and school for the holidays. And it was a really hard Christmas because his aunt passed away just suddenly right before Christmas. So it was just really sad, depressing Christmas. And I remember laying in bed and we're actually looking at our adoption account because we were fully funded and stuff wasn't working out with my job. And we're just kind of laying in bed and thinking, I told him, I said, I feel like something is about to happen. I feel a shift. I feel like something big's about to happen. And he was like, why do you say that? I said, because look at our account. We're fully funded. I said, things are not falling into, because I recently, the place I was working just closed suddenly, right before all this. And so I was kind of out of a job and I was like, I just feel like something's about to happen, something big. I said, we need something happy to happen. And we just had a really good holiday. And we actually too, I don't know if you know this part of the story, but so he was born on the Tuesday, which was the 29th, and we didn't know. But that morning we woke up and we had his Aunt Barbara's funeral on that Monday. And I was like, we need to get out of this house. Let's just go shopping after Christmas, window shopping, get some coffee. We need to get out. And so we ended up, when we're in Lafayette, you have to go to Super Target. So we ended up at Super Target. And I was like, it'd be fun. Let's make a baby registry. And he was like, what? I was like, we'll put the due date for my birthday in April or something. I said, it'll be fun. Let's just go make a baby registry. They're not going to know. How are they going to know? And so we did. We made a baby registry on the day he was born. And we, of course, I know. So then the next morning, I think he was in the shower and we were just kind of sitting around and the phone rang and I saw Emily's number and I was like, oh, and we had a birth mom at the time that had our book for since October. And we hadn't heard anything. So I was like, oh my gosh, I wonder if this is it. I wonder if it wasn't that one, but she was like, hey, what are you doing? And I was like, sitting. And then she went on, we have a baby born yesterday, birth mom has placed with us before. She's looking to place again. We need, if we're gonna, are you interested? Can we show your book? And so I was like, Kurt. And so
yeah, she came to me and was like, what do you want to do? I was like, yes, let's do it.
So I was like, I think she called me back, or she's like, look, and there's 3 other families. So we're going to bring all y'all's books. We're going to look through them or whatever. And then I remember her specifically asking me how are the finances? Because this is going to be super quick. I'll need a big chunk of money really fast. Like, do you need time to like go to the bank? I was like, well, God has provided every penny from what y'all had told us. I said, we're ready to roll. So
yeah, we had raised all the money in a matter of 3 months.
Yeah. Like, we're ready to roll. So, and then when I hung up and I was like, I don't know what to do right now. And she's like, y'all may want to go get a car seat, just in case. And if it doesn't happen, at least you'll have one for when you do get matched. And we were like, what the heck? So we went back to Target and got the car seat that we registered for the day before.
Oh, that's funny.
But anyway,
Yeah, it's one of those crazy things where, when you have those stork drop, there's a baby here right now. It's hard because adoptions are expensive, but you kind of have to have that money ready to go ahead and pay the courts and to pay the counselors and, pay your legal fees and things like that all at one time. Some families, of course, need the few months of the pregnancy to get things in order and pay little bits at a time. So sometimes when you have those sudden fall in your lap baby situations, you have to really be ready to have everything in order quickly, because on our end, we're having to turn around and disperse that money, whether it's to the court or to the birth mom's attorney or to the birth mom's mental health counselor, things like that have to be done right away. And you can't really drag your feet. You could disrupt the adoption if you're not able to move forward timely on all of those things. So that does end up being a kind of a big component with those sudden fall out of the sky situations.
Yeah, so we were in the middle of Target when we got the final call, when Emily called and was like, okay, how fast can you get to Monroe?
Mhm.
And so we bought a car seat, bought some diapers, and then the money, the wire transfer was kind of cool, because thankfully the bank that we had was like right around the corner from Target. And it was, at the time, it was like 4:45 or something. Like, it was close to like 5 o'clock closing time. So like I sped to, the bank that we used, and got this lady, and she was like, okay, there's like 5 minutes to the wire place closes. And so she's typing really fast and just trying her hardest to get it in. And I think we like got it submitted with like 2 minutes to spare, before the bank or the wire place closed. And then we loaded up and headed to.
Well, we went back to my parents' house to get clothes.
Yeah. Well,
and
yeah,
I just handed the box
suitcases
of like the box with the stroller and the cart to my dad. I was like, put this together. We need to pack. And then we made it to the hospital. It was like 9:30.
Yeah, 9:30 that night.
And
December 30th.
And they brought him in, and
we held him for the first time.
Yeah.
It was an emotional evening, to say the least. Just kind of what you were waiting for, anticipating, but not ready for.
And I remember the nurse came in, and she was just kind of like, right out the gate, like, this is what you need to do, this. And I've been a nanny my entire life. And my mom had a baby when I was 14. So I'm like, I know how to take care of baby, get out. But I knew that's what I wanted to say. Right. She was like, he's a terrible nippler. We can't get him to eat. He wouldn't eat for us. He's not eating for his birth mom. But we need him to eat this amount and this amount of time. So we need you to try to feed him. And I was like, can we just look at him for a minute? Like, I think what we did was she left, and we didn't feed him immediately right away. We like unswaddled him and did some skin to skin, and just kind of like, so he could feel, we're here, we love you. And so then about, I don't know, 20 minutes after that, we fed him, and he took his whole bottle like that. No problem.
Wow.
Like, they know, I feel like they know. But so anyway, then he ended up having to be in the NICU for a little bit for some stuff passed down by the birth mother. And that was crazy. And then
what was that, Christina? Because I can't remember. Did she have drug issues? What was the story on that?
He had cocaine exposure. And when they took the meconium, there was some THC in his meconium as well as the cocaine. I don't think she was a drug addict. I don't know. But you told me, hey, or no, it was you. And then the social worker at the hospital, I think you told me that she had a baby 4 years prior who had almost passed away from these issues. And so they checked him right away. But because it was the holidays, it took almost a whole week for to come back, and we couldn't be discharged until that came back. And it was herpes.
I was just going to say, I just remembered. That's what it was.
So one of his swabs came back positive. So he had to be put in the NICU for treatment, which that was a whole nother emotional roller coaster in
He was
itself.
the NICU for about 10 days.
Yeah,
That was a long 10 days.
Which I
Right.
mean, look, there's parents with our baby was healthy. He just needed a treatment. You
Right.
know, there's parents who are, their babies are far. We just felt like we felt blessed. I don't want to say lucky, but we felt blessed.
Okay.
And then the issues with the birth father, you know, him being incarcerated and not wanting to sign the papers. And that was a whole nother big thing. But our birth mother never wavered, and she was firm in her decision, and I respect her for that. And I'm proud of her. And, you know, we love her, even though we haven't had any contact for 6 years, but
Yeah.
not by our choice.
Right. Right. Well, what would you say? I mean, I love hearing that and hearing the story. And of course, sorry that he had to go through the NICU thing. And I think that was probably more just prophylactic, I think, from what I'm hearing you say, more than anything else. But it's so great that he's doing as well as he is. What's the best part, would you tell somebody about your adoption process?
Of course, nothing beats seeing your baby for the first time and holding your baby and who you've waited so long for, you know, and God's promises are fulfilled here in your hands. You know, that's the best part to me. But just the, I don't know, I forgot what I put on that paper.
You probably put that it was your legal team.
I did, actually. I did. I was like, I can't go, I said something like, I can't go without saying, you know, Terry, Emily, Jackie, like leading us through the whole process and praying for us and supporting us. And Terry, I remember you would send me like scripture every day and, you know, praying for you today. And just that was the best part of it all. It just kind of made everything a little less terrifying. But that was probably the best.
Yeah. And for me, I would say by far, seeing God's hand in it, you know, and knowing, I mean, as much of an emotional roller coaster as it was, and there are days where, you know, we're terrified and fearful and felt like it was going to fall apart.
Mhm.
Like, I don't think I've ever experienced God's presence and hand as much in my life. You know, just especially on the bad days, like people would just send a scripture, or I'd hear a song on the radio, or it's just like, you know, it was amazing to, you know, to see God's hand in it and know that, yes, we weren't able to have biological children of our own, but I believe that, you know, God crossed our paths with Dawson at just the right time from the beginning of time,
Mhm.
you know, to bring us together and yeah.
You can push back and have that hesitancy and not want to do this. You just didn't want to do it at the beginning. You know, you said, Kirk, how resistant kind of you were initially, and it took you a while to come around. And now in hindsight, these are the words you have to say about your experience. I think that's just the most beautiful thing, is to know that what started out with such reservation, now you saw that God had his hand all over you through that experience. Just amazing.
Definitely.
Well, and you know, I can't wait for in a few minutes when we get to see Dawson, because nobody watching this podcast will believe that he is an adopted child, because he looks exactly like the two of you.
And that's what everybody says.
It was just incredible to me when I first saw him again, and it's been a while. And when he was a little bitty, he looked like you too, but boy, he is looking more and more like you guys every single day.
It's like reddish hair, like strawberry blonde hair. It's crazy.
Totally. He totally does. He totally does. And I think
People
that's
who
just
don't know, people who don't know our story, when they find out that he's adopted, they're like, what? They're like, oh, not that it's a bad thing, but we would have never known.
right.
Never known.
Well, it just is very sweet, very sweet. Well, what would you think then, now that you've shared the best part? Tell us the worst part about the adoption process.
Tell me to go first.
Sure.
For me, it was the unknowns and like the things that I didn't have control over, because I'm very like, I don't know if you're familiar with the Enneagram, but I'm a 5 on the Enneagram. So I have to have my research. I have to know what's going to happen. If I don't know, I'm Googling it. And at that point, there were so many things out there that I couldn't control and didn't know what was going to happen. And it threw me for a loop. And so that was probably the worst part for me, is the unknowns. And we had issues with the birth father. Like I said, birth mama never wavered in her decision. But the issues with the birth father, then his family getting involved in it, getting kind of ugly, and, you know, him being incarcerated. And, you know, the worst part for me, and I told this to Kurt, I said, I feel like, okay, so we have binding legal custody of this baby, but I'm having a hard time thinking of him as mine right now, because we were so like in limbo about what was going to happen with the birth father. And, even with you telling me, you know, this could happen, but it probably won't. This could happen, but it probably won't. I was just like, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. I just know it'll happen. But of course, nothing ever came of that situation. But it was just like a whole other month before it was finally like, okay, he's done with this baby, is officially, I mean, it was already officially legally binding to us, but I finally could breathe and be like, okay, it's done. You know, but it was the unknowns and the things I couldn't control.
And then you send them off to school and you learn a whole nother level of I don't have any control, right?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
What about you? What was the worst part for you?
I would definitely agree with you.
Mhm.
The unknowns, and I think the toughest thing for me was the initial start of the process, even before we got connected with Terry, because adoption can be the thought of adoption can be overwhelming. You know, there's buku agencies out there. There's all, you know, so many things, you know, it's the finances, it's the, what do I do? Where do I start?
Where's my money going? What's happening here?
And so that was like that. And that was one of my hesitations. I was like, I don't even know where to start. Like, it was just overwhelming to me. And so like coming to, you know, finding Terry and Emily, you know, by God's providence was God's providence,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because they were able to walk us, you know, step by step, you know, and okay, this is what's next. This is what we do now. This is, you know, so that was, but that initial kind of research stage of, okay, what do I do was pretty difficult to get over.
It sounds like you guys have learned a lot through this process. I know you, as part of your adoption advocacy, Christina, I know you probably tell people about your story and help teach them and educate them. What would you guys say were the top 3 things you learned going through the adoption process that other people should know kind of going into it?
We didn't realize what an emotional roller coaster it would be. So that's probably number 1. Like the emotions that are with from everything, just, and our situation was so unique. It was a little different. Like we were just thrown into it, like all at once. We didn't have time to get to know our birth mother. We didn't have time to process and deal. It was just like, oh, here's a baby, you know, which is fine. That's how it was supposed to happen. And I wouldn't have it any other way, but it was just kind of like, okay.
Yeah.
And we only had 3 months. So, you know.
Yeah. And we had got the call about Dawson. Like we didn't have a baby
anything.
bed. We didn't have diapers.
We had a onesie. One onesie.
So yeah, I'd say that emotional roller coaster, gut wrenching at times.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the unknowns, and I think, you know, what I said previously, you know, just taking it step by step, day by day.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just I would, if I was to do it all over again, I would, you know, go through Terry, or, you know, a smaller, you know, if you know, if in another state or whatever, Terry's not an option, like a smaller attorney you trust and that could give more personalized, you know, support and encouragement and guidance
Mm-hmm.
than, you know, some big agency where you may just be a number. And again, just God is in the details, you know. Like I said earlier, I think God created Dawson to be our child from the beginning of time. And, just everything that happened leading up to that was just God's providence. So I don't know if you want to add anything to that, but.
No, that's pretty much hit the nail on the head.
Thanks for sharing that, Kurt. I just want to jump in and say, I think it's important that you recognize Terry and Emily for what they bring to the table, because being specifically adoption attorneys, they have the unique skill set to deal with adoptions. And we've talked about this, I think, in our first episode, is that is a real critical service that they're offering that's specialized and unique. And yes, if somebody is in another state, they probably would have you guys do have a referral system, don't you?
Oh yeah, we could definitely help, a family find someone. Typically, our office can work on any adoption as long as someone is in Louisiana. We can either represent the birth parents in Louisiana, or if an adoptive family is in Louisiana. So if everybody's in a different state, then that's going to be not us, but that's okay. We still rejoice for everybody that gets to be a part of this wonderful world. So that's a good thing. Okay, Kurt and Christina, I have another really important question to ask you. First, it's my understanding that you guys are ready and interested and hopeful to get to adopt again in the future. So thinking about the fact that there may be an expectant mom out there who's trying to make a decision now about her own baby. And I'm not just trying to say to try to sell yourself or anything, but what would you say to her if she were your best friend trying to decide what she wants to do and how she should make a decision if she's got an unplanned pregnancy?
I guess what I would say is, ultimately it's your decision. And we're here to support you in any way we can. Just, if we make it through to the birth and you decide you want to parent, we're here for you for that too, just to support you and to give you what you need emotionally. It's a hard decision. Adoption is such a tragically beautiful process. And, I know that your greatest heartache is going to be our, greatest happiness. And we just want you to know that it's your decision, but we're here for whatever support you need.
I had a question.
Sure.
Like Mom said earlier, even though we walked this journey with you guys, held your hand through it, we find ourselves always learning more about you and about your adoption experience. And even in hindsight, when we talk with you about it, I think it was Kurt that mentioned that you guys haven't had contact with your birth mom since placement. And I also know this was a fall out of the sky, kind of a sudden placement. So you didn't have those months of her pregnancy to have some openness and contact with her, getting to know her, building rapport during the pregnancy. So that was limited contact with her during her pregnancy. Sounds like no real contact with her post delivery either. What are your thoughts on that? How has that shaped your adoption experience for the better or for the worse? Do you have anything to share as it relates to that experience for you guys?
Well, in the beginning, I had the feeling that I didn't necessarily want to have a relationship with our birth mom. Looking back, I feel like that was very selfish of me, because Dawson she's part of Dawson. And I believe our adoption is considered semi-open. So we could have had that contact. And she even said that she would like to have, monthly updates or once a year, or she said we could reach out to her if we ever needed, like medical, if something happened in history, if something happened to Dawson or whatever. But we kind of left it up to her. And once we met, and once I started educating myself in adoption and birth mama care, and I kind of changed my tune. So I would have loved to have a relationship with her. And even to this day, like I still wish that we had that, not just for me and for us, but for Dawson as well, because I would have loved for her to be a part of his life. I don't know in what capacity, but I still would have liked her to be present in his life. And I still continue to send yearly updates because I know y'all like to see them. Even if she's not asking for them, even if she's not, I think Terry told me at one point, I think Dawson was around 3 months old. She actually did come to the office or something. And Terry was like, oh, I have these updates. You want to see them? And she's like, yeah, that would be fine. But that was like the only time I've heard anything about her wanting anything to do with him, post placement. But I would have really loved to develop some kind of relationship with her. But I mean, like I said, that's ultimately her decision. All I can do is pray, and I've been praying, and I pray for her every day. And he has a told.
And it's interesting because I'm kind of the opposite. I don't know if it's a guy, a male female thing. Like I'm still a little selfish. I'm good with no contact, and it is more selfishness because I'm not sure. I don't have the answers on how to navigate that, and what that even looks like, and it just kind of scares me a little bit. And we're very open with Dawson about adoption, and he was adopted, and we celebrate that with him, the beauty of that. And we'll always be honest with him, and we'll give him that option one day, if he wants to pursue a relationship or whatever that would look like. But yeah, I'm a little different than Christina on that.
There's no right or wrong answer, what it's supposed to look like. We see from one family to the next how different post-adoption contact can be. And clearly, even within a relationship, you guys can feel so differently about it. So my advice to people is always just be flexible. And, as long as you put Dawson and his needs first and just, focus on him, and then just let things organically happen. It may be that your birth mom, in your case, it's just something that she's had to create some boundaries. And so since she's not actively reaching out for that, you've been able to kind of sit back and rest and allow things to happen. And there's no need to stress about it or pressure yourself into having that contact. But if she were to reach out, it's great that you guys can have that flexibility to know if that were to happen, maybe you could consider that things could be different moving forward.
And we kind of got to know the family that she placed with before Dawson. And they also said that she never had reached out, never wanted any contact. And so we're just kind of like, well, that's how she's handling it. That's how she's processing. And here we are 6 years later. And it's just, I have to accept that she doesn't want it. So I just still pray for her. But if she ever does want to reach out, we're here for her. If she needs. So.
Well, that's great. That's great. I do have one other thing before I know we're going to get to see Dawson here in a little bit, but I just wanted to ask Kurt, because you seem like you have such a quiet strength about yourself, and I imagine the reason you feel differently about post-adoption contact is because you're the protector of the family, and you just want to keep all your, keep your peeps nice and safe, and
Sure.
No more drama and all the rest of that. So, there's a lot of other men standing in your shoes out there, husbands that are about to go through or going through the adoption process, and they're in a place that you were several years ago. Do you have any suggestions or advice you'd give to the men of this world that are standing in a place you used to be?
Lots of prayer. Definitely, every day covered and in prayer, and it's okay to be scared. It's okay not to have the answers. 'Cause I think sometimes we, as men, we feel like we need to have the answers and have a plan. And sometimes, in the words of the philosopher Mike Tyson, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. And, so to be flexible to that, and to trust God. And in infertility and some adoption, it's a lot of, there is some grief, and I'm even even today I'm still dealing with some of that grief in infertility, and so I think for years, like, I was, again, the protector. I wanted to take care of Christina and her, but also to learn how to take care of your own emotional grief in that, to not neglect that.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that.
Guys, we are going to take a quick break. Before we go, if you're an expectant mother that's listening today, please text us on our expectant mother hotline, 318-557-7658, with any questions about your options for adoption. You can also check out our website, www.odom-saska.com, for more information and resources on how to contact us.
Very nice. Very nice.
Yay!
Welcome back, guys. Let's jump back in. Okay, you ready?
Let's do it. All right, Kurt and Christina. Dawson is 6 years old, and
Yeah,
He'll be 6 next month.
next month.
oh, almost 6. Okay, and you were telling me that he knows he's adopted. Y'all talk about adoption with him. Is that right?
You do.
That's great.
Why don't you share with our listeners a little bit about how you have discussed it with him and how he's received it?
It's something we've always been, really open with him about. We've always, since he was little and able to have a conversation, we've always tried to normalize it, and it's part of his story. It's who he is, and so we want to celebrate that, and not hide it from him. It's I think it's a very special thing, and not that he's any more special than any other kid, but
Yeah.
well, I think he is. But,
Right.
it's something that's always going to be part of his story. So we want him to know that. And,
Yeah, he knows what it means to be adopted, and he knows that he grew in another mom's belly. He'll tell anybody who asks about adoption. What does it mean? What does adoption mean to you? What does it mean to be adopted? And he'll do his little thing. And so we try to be as open as age appropriate. So he's always been something that he knows. It's just like daily conversation, I guess.
I know, Christina, during the break, you mentioned about World Adoption Day and how Dawson did something kind of special. I think it was last year, perhaps, for World Adoption Day. Can you share what that means with our listeners?
Well, last year he was in pre-K 4, and they sent home a sheet that said, we were discussing holidays, and we would like for your child to discuss the special holiday tradition that you celebrate, like with your family. It could be something you do at Christmas or whatever. So then we're going to discuss it in class. And it just so happened that World Adoption Day was going to be like the next day. The day was supposed to be discussed or turned in. The little paper was supposed to be turned in or whatever. And so we celebrate that every year anyway. We put the smiley faces on our hands, and we take the cute little picture. And I was like, well, that's the perfect thing. So I wrote out, how we celebrate World Adoption Day. And I just wrote a little note to his teacher, and I was like, Dawson would like if it's okay with you, for all his friends to draw the happy face on the hands. And she did. And she went like above and beyond, and she sent me a picture. So I get it in the middle of work, and I'm just like sobbing. I was like, oh, look at all that. But they all had their little smiley faces on their hands, and it was sweet. So
That's a great story. That's wonderful. And what a great way to remember World Adoption Day.
well, there's two different. There's National Adoption Day and there's World Adoption Day.
We can't celebrate adoption too often.
That's right. That's right.
We
That's
celebrate
right.
it every day, but
That's all right.
it's good to make it special.
Absolutely.
Just like we celebrate his finalization day too every year. So
It's kind of like a second birthday.
it is. He gets cupcakes, and
Aw.
he's right behind the camera. He's like,
As we back away from all of this and take a look at maybe the forest for the trees, what might you have to share that we haven't talked about yet relative to whether it's your adoption or maybe just adoption in general, the whole concept? What would you like to leave our listeners with?
well, I know for me, adoption is such a blessing. And Here he is.
Of course.
That when we would have if we would have gotten pregnant when we so desperately wanted to, we wouldn't have Dawson today. And that's not lost on me. And I also know that in a perfect world, a perfect sinless world, adoption wouldn't even exist. But that's where that whole tragically beautiful thing comes in, so I know that in a perfect world, it was not lost on us either that he probably wouldn't be our son, but here he is. And we are so thankful.
Dawson, what are you looking forward to for Christmas?
A lot of stuff.
Oh, yeah. Can you tell us a couple things?
What you asking Santa Claus for?
I don't really know yet.
Yeah, you did a two-wheel what?
A two-wheel scooter.
Two-wheel scooter.
Oh, wow.
I already have one.
Oh,
you need
okay.
those.
But I will get a background for Christmas.
A Bakugan.
Okay. That sounds really exotic.
Little, I guess, Japanese
They're not Japanese.
transformer type.
Stop
It
hollering.
comes in a cube and you throw it down and it transforms
It's not-
into a
Oh, neat.
dragon.
Bakugan's come in a circle.
Oh yeah, sorry. I'm sorry.
Wow.
So is Dad right? Do you throw it down and then what happens?
And then it turned into something.
What's yours
Ooh.
turn into?
A bird kind of thing.
Like a dragon kind of.
Dragon.
Cool.
It's a bird.
Dragon mixed with the bird.
I'll show you it.
Oh, he's going to show you it. Like I said before, if we would have gotten pregnant when we so desperately wanted to, we wouldn't have Dawson today. And, of course, we can't imagine our life without him. We don't remember our life before him. So, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I honestly, part of my hesitation, which I'm sure a lot of, especially probably guys have, it's this fear that you won't be able to love an adopted child as much as your own biological child. And like, as soon as I held Dawson or saw him, like it was just I couldn't imagine loving a child more, than if he was my biological child. It's a and an adoption is such a, yes, in a perfect world, there wouldn't be infertility, there wouldn't be, but adoption is such a beautiful picture of what God has done for us, that we weren't a part of his family, but he made us a part of his family. He adopted us as his children. And I love even the language of the contract, the legal doc we have says, like, Dawson.
I really can't find it. It's in here.
I think he was going to say
Dawson becomes, I don't know, and you could probably
as
read it
if
better
he
than
was
as if
born
he
of
was
your
born
own
of your
union.
own.
Right. A child of the marriage. Yeah. As if he had been born of the marriage between the two of you.
Yes, I just it's I don't know. God is pro adoption.
For sure.
Okay, he's going to show y'all his Bakugan.
This is what it is when
Put
it's
it up close to that
closed.
green light
Okay.
and throw it down, or just
Oh, okay.
This is what it turns into.
Oh, my.
Wow. I would never have thought that it transforms into a flying thing. That's amazing.
There's
yeah.
many different ones.
How does it fold up?
Like
Folded it.
pull the head back, put it in here, close. Like this.
Take your time. Take your time.
Here, take your time.
And close the wing.
Ta-da.
Yay. Ta-da.
Whoa.
That is neat. So they sell other little boxes like that turn into different things.
Oh yeah, there's a 3-pack of a Bakugan that
Uh-huh.
circles. So this is a geogon.
A Geo.
Oh, gotcha.
We're gonna have him sponsor this podcast episode.
There's also the cards that I don't know where they are.
There's some
It comes with some playing cards.
Okay.
And I want to show you them.
I think they're right there, Dawson. Yeah.
This is one,
Oh, that's pretty handy.
and then this is 2, and then this
That's
is
the one you
3.
have, huh?
That's the one you have.
Shows how much power they have.
Good show.
Yeah, that looks like the one you just did, right?
Yeah, it's the same one.
Yeah,
Same one.
It's on the card.
right, right. I'm mostly glad to see that very cool toy that you got. I learned something new.
Yeah, I
And
did too. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Well, first of all, Kurt and Christina and Dawson, thank y'all so much for being with us today. And it's been such a delight seeing you all again and hearing your story again. We were there with you for part of the journey, but y'all are just doing so great. And thank you for sharing your heart in this with us. And so from our family to yours, thank you for listening to this episode. We're so glad you tuned in today. And the landing page for this podcast is Odom-Saska.com/podcast. That's Odom-Saska.com/podcast.
Please take a moment to rate and review this podcast on the platform of your choice. We love those hearts and stars. We invite you to share this podcast with your friends and family, especially those who you know it'll resonate with. If you have any feedback, questions, or comments, please email us at odomsaska.com. That's ODOMSASKA.com. Your voice is so important.
And then the Birth Mom Hotline, if you're an expectant mom and you'd like to talk with someone at our office about considering adoption, you're welcome to call 318-557-7658. That's 318-557-7658. And you can text us or you can call and leave a message, and we'll reply just as quickly as we can because we know it's the most important thing in your world. We are so glad you're here with us, and we hope you'll always remember that no matter what the circumstances are, adoption is always a wise choice.
Oh,
That's just
Right
me.
again.
there it is.
These are fun outtakes, y'all.
Wow.